Good afternoon, faithful. It is Wednesday. Usually that would be between two beards, but we have the mailbag happening today. Today's show is the live 49ers mailbag, wherein we go back and forth from previously submitted questions to those that you ask live in the chat. So those of you that are here live, absolutely want to say thank you for being a part of the program. It is your dialogue. It is your questions that make this show go. Please do me that favor of hitting that like button early to amplify that signal to get more and more folks in here. This was obviously a tough week. I was out there for the game in Atlanta and, 0 for 3 now in games that I've been to this season. That is absolutely painful. And I want to touch on that in just a moment. But again, it is all about those of you that are here in the program, in the chat. So want to say what's up to Raphael5629ers, the sneakerhead here on the channel, who says, what's up, Rob, sneakerheads, and everyone. The Stivers Niners 209 show pointing out the good news. Says, hey, Rob, good news is Nick Bosa will play this Sunday against the Chiefs. He is back at practice as of today. E. Kim dropping in to say hello. Alan Elizer, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, Rob, shoe faithful, sneakerheads, and everyone, gore that like button, meaning hit that like button. We got gold-blooded in the house talking about getting things back to that positive energy and a dub this week as National Stay Healthy Week. Luke Walsh here in the building. Hey, everyone. Dirk Pippin in the house. Sneakerhead here says, yo, Sneakerhead fam. And everyone. It's a very inclusive message here. Gold Digger 1849 coming in to say what's up, as is Luke Walsh and Daniel Garcia in the house saying what's up to me and to the Niner fam. Appreciate everybody that is here. Those of you typing in the questions for me in the chat, hit me with @Rob before the question. I do want to hit on Alan. Alan came in, and I just got to say thank you to Alan, because I'm going to start the show with this. This one is tough for me to talk about because it's a little bit of a request from me to you, and it's early on in the show, so not everyone will see it. So for those of you watching at this part of the program, don't feel bad if someone later on in the program comes in to do this. But Alan came in with an email, and I just want to say thank you because it was some kind words. So I'm going to read that out. Alan said, I hope you had a good time at the game as a whole, even with the loss the Niners got on Sunday. I don't blame you for the loss. Unfortunately, your losing streak continues. You're not a jinx as a fan of a team. We go to the game, hope and pray for a win. When we get to the game, you didn't make Wilson fumble and give the Falcons 7 free points. Jimmy played a good game, just couldn't keep the drives going. So I just want to say thank you. I know that there's some humor in teasing about the current streak that's going on, but I am going to say right here on this channel, asking from me to you, I'm done with it. It literally pains me to think about it. It hurts me when I get a little bit of teasing about it. So I understand there's going to be someone who hears that and wants to double down on the amount of talking about the streak. But for me, if you're willing to do me that favor and set it aside, like you wouldn't talk about a perfect game that's happening, we don't want to talk about this. I am going to, behind the scenes, do whatever needs to be done, burning sage. You trust me, I will handle it on my end, but I'd rather it not keep showing up on the channel. And I hope that is understandable. I hope fellow 49er faithful understand why that might feel terrible as a fan to, in any way, whether you're superstitious or just a little bit stitious, to feel like you contributed. And I'm not going to stop going to games. That is not happening. If you know me, you know I go to games. And as Alan was saying there, I get something out of going to the games regardless. It's a hell of a life experience. This last game, I got to meet Randon for the first time. Randon and I do our shows on Wednesday nights together. We have done a show together for almost a year. We had never met in person. We had a fantastic time, ate phenomenal food, even had fun at the game during the loss. The second half, not so much. But we enjoyed the Atlanta fan base. We enjoyed Atlanta as a whole, loved the stadium, and the game just didn't turn out the way that we thought it would. But I wanted to put that out there. Again, if anyone comes into the chat later on and is teasing about that, I don't want the chat to jump on that person. This is just between you and I. I will politely ask that person not to continue with talk of said streak. I appreciate all of you. All right, let me start this out in the chat. Let's see. Here we go. We got a food question to start. Dirt Pippin says, I need to know your best meal in Hotlanta. It was a phenomenal Chinese place that was right by the Hyatt Regency. Phenomenal Chinese spot, totally legit, had great reviews. My Uber driver was telling me about it on the way to the hotel. We gorged ourselves Sunday night, had a 3-course Peking duck frickin' meal that was spectacular. Something to wash away the pain of that fricking loss. It was tough. It was tough. Gold Digger 1849 says, Rob, you are good, brother. Full support for you. I appreciate it. Dirk Pippin says, you need to swing by my crib on the way to a game. I live 5 minutes from Balboa Street Station. Yes, we will make that happen. We will make that happen. Mullet coming in. Rob, I don't think you're jinxing us, but if it's a mobile quarterback who we are facing on the road, you might not want to go. This is true. There are different games with different likelihoods of outcomes, and mobile quarterbacks are going to be a struggle for the 49ers. Daniel Garcia says, Rob, I'm in Eugene, Oregon. Someday we'll meet and enjoy some Niner football, possibly in Seattle. I will be there in Seattle this year. Always trying to make it to Seattle. Let's see this. Jimmy J. Rob, please tell me you went to L.I. What L.I.? What is L.I.? I mean, I might have visited the aquarium, if that's what you were looking for with the L.I. Let me know. It looks like hashtag RILIB, but I don't know what the RILIB is, Jimmy J. I may be missing out on code words. All right, I'm getting back to the previously submitted questions here. This one from D Case saying, how do we get a center on the roster? Honestly, I'm not sure that the 49ers are going to make any move for any offensive lineman, but the best case I heard for this really was in attempting to get Alex Mack to come out of retirement. If you could present a case wherein, hey, we are a formidable team, however, the offensive line is missing one real piece, and that's the center position. Now, I'm not arguing that's actually the case. I'm willing to give this a little more time to watch the offensive line gel a little bit more. And I'm willing to admit that at this point, the offense needs to do something. So if Shanahan believed that it was the center position, I would absolutely try to get Mack back. And you would think part of his decision to retire was, hey, listen, if I'm coming back for one final season and there's a new quarterback under center, I have to learn that new quarterback's tendencies. If it were Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe I would have stayed. Well, now it is Jimmy Garoppolo. So yes, I would revisit that conversation. No, I wouldn't be optimistic about it, nor do I believe the 49ers will actually make a play for an offensive lineman. All right, this one talking about another possibility of bringing in talent. This was a common theme for today's mailbag. Would you be surprised if the Niners trade for a player on offense? I would not. Christian McCaffrey would not shock me at all. The ties to Kyle Shanahan and the McCaffrey family are very obvious. The idea of having a spectacular playmaker like Christian McCaffrey in this offense feels like a natural fit. And not to mention the fact that this offense has been struggling, not putting up the points that we would expect it to, given the wide variety of playmakers that already exist on this roster. The other question that you hear bandied about would be defensive or offensive linemen. There's a specific name associated with the defensive lineman, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. When it comes to the offensive lineman, it's like the question before this saying, hey, we should bring in someone for one of those three inner positions or as a depth piece for one of the tackles. I continue to see pressure coming off of the edges, the occasional missed assignment from one of the young guys, but that's really what you would expect. Where I see continual issues that I wouldn't expect it are the skill position players. I believe we have more talented skill position players than are currently being shown at this point in time. And yet, I would not expect a trade for anyone at this point outside of Christian McCaffrey. All right, we will be getting back to questions about health in just a moment, but I want to answer those questions live in the chat as well. CJ Gray talking about Brendel, saying Brendel is really bad. CJ, have you felt that way from the start of the season, or is this the trend that you're seeing in the last couple of games? That's what I'm looking for. Because honestly, to start the year, I didn't think it was that bad from Brendel. And it has seemed to get worse. All right, here was the question. Rob, please tell me you went to Pity Pat's Porch to eat in the ATL. I did not. I may have to add that to the list for the next time I'm in town. I clearly did not have time to eat at all the spots. Got some good ones, but will want to go back. Atlanta now falls into the list of these places that I've been, the stadiums I've been to, where we didn't win. So once I kicked the bucket list of hey, I've been to every stadium, saying kick the bucket list is a bad one. Once I hit all of my bucket list items and get to every stadium, I will go back through and hit the stadiums where I went and the Niners lost. A hell of a lot of my trips lately have been that way. So I will add that to the list for ATL. Daniel Garcia, Rob, you feel O-line, defensive tackle, or cornerback is a possibility before the trade deadline? Of those three, I would wager that a backup level offensive lineman would be the most likely, followed by a defensive tackle. I don't think you trade for a D tackle or a cornerback. I think if they need to add someone to the end of the roster in either one of those spots, they probably look to free agency. E. Kim saying, Rob, didn't Kyle learn from his dad on the value of an elite center? He seemed to prioritize it with Weston Richburg. That didn't work out. Brought in Mack a little past his prime, quite obviously, the last year of his career, but he has not made the effort to get it done. Much like the quarterback position, it's fair to criticize. Now, at least with the quarterback position, you have Trey Lance on the team. So as long as you believe in Trey Lance, you say to yourself, hey, the answer is already there. But with center, it doesn't appear to be. I'm not leaning on Jake Brendel going forward. Gold-blooded, Rob, easy, brother. The jinx thing is simply a joke, on my part at least. I used to be that way, and I realized no matter where people sat, that they or I, it's not going to change a thing. I hear you, gold-blooded. And honestly, I take it as a joke, and it is just me saying I am at that sort of point where I can no longer laugh it off because my Niners are hurting me like that. The losses really add up and equate to pain in my personal life. And when that is layered on top of it, it becomes something that, I don't know, that I not only don't look forward to, but like I become anxious about going on a stream, knowing I will see a comment like that, knowing it will sting on some level. But I appreciate you coming in to say that, gold-blooded, and I do not interpret it as being shots. That's why I figured asking politely would suffice. Gold Digger 1849, Rob, Ward might play with a cast. I saw the cast today. He was talking about comparing, how Patrick Willis was able to play with that cast on. I think it's fair what Jimmy said, that, hey, it was easier for P. Willie to play with the cast on. He's not going up against the same skill position players. So will we see Jimmy Ward out there? I hope so. I think he can add to the depth of this defense. Will he be in his starting role? I am not sure about that. Not sure. Dirk Pippen coming in. I see a lack of effort and lack of consistency and lots of freaking injuries. The injuries are killing us on the defensive front. The inconsistencies are really aggravating on offense, and I just do not understand how we can fail to be ready to play against these teams week after week. Sigh coming in. That's the sound I want to make. Rob, I don't understand Shanny's time management in crunch time when we were down 2 touchdowns playing like we were only down 1 touchdown. This worries me in the future. I know the lack of sense of urgency you're talking about. It would have felt a little different had we scored on that first drive. It would have given a breather to the defense. I think I understand what Shanahan was going there for. I don't agree with it. I believe in what you're espousing here, that Shanahan should have tried to maximize the number of offensive snaps that he had towards the end of the game. I think he tried to slow it down and say, I've got one bite at this apple, one long drive, make sure my defense is rested enough to stop them, and then I'm going to have 2 minutes or less with a timeout or 2 and enough to move the ball. However, it left him with zero margin for error. And then when they were unable to get points on the first drive, it shot them in the foot. However, they did get the ball back after that first drive, so you could see what Shanahan was going for. It didn't work out. Looking at Gold-Blooded, says Rob, CMC or a boy named Sue. Yes, Sue. If a signing or trade happens, I'm going Sue. Imagine this interior when Armstead gets healthy. I like Ndamukong Suh. He is oftentimes when he's training around here in Portland, I will run. There's a Whole Foods 2 blocks from my house. And one day I walked in there and I was like, that looks like Ndamukong Suh. And then I followed him around for a little bit. It was Ndamukong Suh. He is here. He is from here in Portland. I think his folks live somewhere in Irvington, which is not far from where I live as well. And so I got a pull for Suh. Of the two, I'm going to guess that CMC would have the greater value for this squad because it is the offense that is really struggling. The defense struggled against Atlanta, but that I attribute to injuries. The offense has yet to get going so far this year. I really haven't seen them gel. Someone like Christian McCaffrey could add a little something. Daniel Garcia, Rob, how do you feel about Ndamukong Suh coming in as a half-year rental? Not give up draft picks for something higher, for someone higher caliber. That would be what I like about that move. The 49ers do not have a first-round draft pick. They have a couple of extra third-round picks. If they go into the Christian McCaffrey sweepstakes, I've seen some hypotheticals where the Niners are able to get it done with a third round from this year and then a second rounder from the following year. I'm going to guess that the Panthers get a more enticing offer than that, and the 49ers are not willing to give up their second-round pick this time around. An acquisition where you don't have to give up draft capital is a significantly less risky move, just eating up a little bit of the available cap space, although, admittedly, there is not much of that. Kim coming in with a question. Rob, do you think Kyle's good for Trey's future? It's a great question. It's one of the questions I've had about Kyle Shanahan for a long time. We don't have historical data of him developing a quarterback. Has he taken an established quarterback within the NFL and maximized their talents? Yes, he absolutely has. Matt Schaub was one. Matt Ryan was another. He has been able to maximize talents. RG3 came into the league as a rookie. Now, what I'm arguing with RG3 is you did not see progression, that he came in with a certain physical set of skills, and Shanahan was able to maximize that. However, you look towards the end of the year when those injuries ravaged RG3 or subsequent years, and there wasn't the progression that you would have liked to have seen. Now, I'm not saying that's evidence of an inability to develop a quarterback. Kim, I think it's fair to ask this question. I do not believe we have strong evidence one way or the other. The Stivers Niners 209 show saying, Rob, good news. We're playing on grass at Levi Stadium. No more turf. I'm going to play on turf at Levi South. Yes, we do then go down to Levi South the following week. So we have 1 week off, natural grass, and then back. Dirk Pippen, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, Kyle used to outthink himself in the fourth quarter in the playoffs. Now it starts every game at halftime. I don't get not running the ball aggressively with a rook. You and me both, Dirk. It is frustrating to watch Kyle Shanahan struggle. Someone that I view as a very astute offensive coach. I don't hesitate to use the offensive genius label. I know it gets harder and harder to justify using that label when we look at what the 49ers offense puts on the field on a regular basis. Kyle Shanahan is in a rut. However, I will not give up on him. I still believe he can figure it out. I do wonder if he needs a stronger voice in the room. I thought Anthony Lynn was going to be that voice this season. Clearly, he has not been to this point. I think an outside hire, whether that is bringing in an offensive coordinator or not, may be necessary. Peter Lee saying, Rob, did you hear the news that Harbaugh will be attending the Chiefs game along with some former 2012 Super Bowl Niners like Justin Smith, Aldon Smith, Willis, Bowman, Fangio? I can see a loud applause from fans happening. That will be a huge applause and a needed boost. Hopefully enough for the 49ers to maybe be in this game. I am not wildly optimistic given what we showed against Atlanta, going up against a much more ferocious opponent in the Kansas City Chiefs. Whatever emotional lift the Niners get from the attendance of former greats and Jim Harbaugh will be absolutely needed in this one if the Niners are going to have a chance to beat Kansas City. Peter Lee says, Rob, with Harbaugh showing up, you think it will impact how Shanny coaches this Sunday with the scrutiny from fans piling on as well as the presence of other alumni Niners? I will say Shanahan needs to look in the mirror. And whether that's because there are alumni coming, because fan pressure is building, because Jim Harbaugh will be in the building next week. Whatever the case may be, whatever brings him back to his roots, establishing that strong run game and leaning on it, regardless of the initial outcome. I don't care what motivates him to do it, as long as he gets to that point. Everything on this team is built around complementary football, including how special this defense is, especially when it is dinged up as it is right now with a number of starters out. When this defense is fully healthy, I think they can win games for this team on their own. With the number of injuries they're fighting through right now, the offense has to carry its weight. The offense has to carry its weight. Miguel coming in. Rob, why is Kyle holding JP Mason on the bench? Give him some carries to see what he has. We have that question later in the previously submitted questions. So we are going to get to that, Miguel. We have that coming up in just a bit, and that is going to be the teaser for me to get back over into the previously submitted questions. For those of you in the comments section, do me a favor. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content and put in your question with an @Rob, much like Nick Money Meyer did right here. Nick Money Meyer, I'm coming back to that comment in just one moment. Right now, we're getting into a previously submitted question. All right, John B. coming in. He couldn't make the live stream. He says, I won't be on the live since I'm in Mexico. But what can this team do outside of getting healthy to bounce back and come out with a win this week against the Chiefs? First of all, enjoy Mexico. Get the hell away from the stress of the 49ers losing a game that they should not have lost, of the Atlanta Falcons doing to the 49ers what the Niners should have been able to do to Atlanta, and that is come out, play physically, and simply overcome your opponent. Instead, the Falcons took it to us. They overcame the Niners, and they did it with gusto. So what do they need to do? It's all about the offense. It's all about the O in this one, because we're not going to get a miraculous number of players back, and you would expect there to be a couple of nicked up players in this contest as well. So I'm not hanging my hat on saying, hey, in order to get into this one, it's going to be about the injuries and about recovering, because quite honestly, that's out of our hands. It's frustrating as hell, but that is out of our hands. So the offense has to come together as one. There's just a lack of focus or drive that is completely missing. And I think it is fair to blame Kyle Shanahan as a head coach, regardless of the quality of plays that he can design, regardless of when he's in a groove, his play calling being spot on. If he's unable to get his players ready week in, week out, to put them in a place to be successful, eliminate those mistakes, then you do have to seriously ask yourself, hey, he's a genius and he struggled as a head coach. And eventually, I'm not there right now, nor will I be there at the end of this season, but eventually you say to yourself, one does not outweigh the other. And you have to seriously consider letting go of someone as intelligent and as well-versed as Kyle Shanahan. Again, I'm not there yet. At the end of this season, if the offense doesn't get their act together, I will be there at the end of this season. Just not yet. Leo coming in. What's your take on why the 49ers are a disproportionately injury-prone team since Kyle Shanahan has been head coach? Injuries hit all teams, but it's become our identity to have double-digit starters out. I'm honestly at a loss for words with this at this point. It feels just unimaginable that one team would be hit with injuries so consistently. And it is true that it's throughout the league, and we are definitely subject to PTSD of a couple of really bad seasons, such that when we have an injury here, an injury there, we all start to act like Chicken Little and say the sky is falling at this point. But let's be honest, there are years where the sky frickin' fell on our heads, and a season was busted because we couldn't keep players healthy. So why is it? Honestly, I have no idea. We wanted less rigorous practices. Kyle went that direction, and it hasn't truly helped. It seemed to be a minor uptick in health for the first year, wherein we were not having those rigorous practices. It was lighter throughout the spring. You had the couple of injuries in one day with Justin School and Jeff Wilson Jr. After that, it was like, no, cancel minicamp. So we have seen the less rigorous frickin' angle Do we need to get back to the other side of things wherein you had Harbaugh with these brutal practices because it was about building up the contact callus? Honestly, at this point, I don't know, because at the end of the Harbaugh era, you had a lot of injuries there as well. Now, I would argue primarily that was because of the choices that Trent Baalke was making. So potentially the callus thing is real. I mean, Harbaugh had players ready. All right, one more before I'm back into the comments. Would you rather trade for Brian Burns or Christian McCaffrey? This is what I was alluding to earlier as far as the defensive lineman that gets thrown about as a name that the Niners might be interested in. And let's be honest, I understand why his name is thrown about. I also think it would take a little bit more to get Brian Burns than it would CMC. CMC is battling those injuries. That's going to be a concern. He's a luxury pick to have. You don't build around a high-priced running back. You can build around a high-priced lineman who can get after the quarterback, even if you're paying him at the top of the freaking league. So Brian Burns feels like one that may not be available. Plus, the defense isn't the issue, even with Bosa out. The idea of McCaffrey as another weapon in the offense with his versatility, that would be amazing to me. All right, let me get back into the comments live in the chat. I appreciate all of you. Again, you enjoy the content. Do me that favor. Hit the like button. Nick Money Meyer. Hey, Rob, if Shanny's gone, he's not, though. And is Shanny gone end of season? How about Holmgren as head coach and Steve Young as quarterback coach? Thoughts? Let me rephrase that. So if Shanny's gone at the end of the season, how about Mike Holmgren as head coach, Steve Young as quarterback coach? Thoughts? If Shanahan were gone the end of this season, I would want DeMeco Ryans. Done and done. Bring him in. That man deserves a head coaching role. And if you're going to switch from offensive-minded to defensive-minded, let's just go with a dude that has the momentum right now. That would be my choice there. I know that because he's a part of this staff, that would be sort of awkward. That would be really awkward if we're honest about it. Mike Holmgren, I could get my head around that. It's not going to be super exciting to me. Many of the more exciting hires are guys that haven't had a bite at the apple. Revisiting someone who has a long and storied history within the NFL. I know there are success stories, Andy Reid being one of them. I'm not sure Mike Holmgren's the answer. Steve Young as a quarterback coach, if you could get him, absolutely. Abso-frickin-lutely. I just think Steve is enjoying being on the television and not working too hard. He seems to comment on that pretty regularly. Ekim coming in with strong thoughts on Kyle Shanahan. Rob, Kyle is no offensive genius. His offense was figured out against Tennessee last season. He certainly has been struggling, and I am not going to dispute that in the least. Starco fan 212, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Shue, can we draft a new health and conditioning team in next year's draft? This is the thing, man. So we had, man, I forget what his name was, but the one dude who we let go of, I was just reading his name recently. He went over to the Minnesota Vikings, and it was, oh man, it's coming to me. It's coming to me. Anyway, tip of the tongue. I believe his first name was Mark, and he was our strength and conditioning coach when we were in the midst of this issue. We decided to move on, clean house, bring in a whole new staff, and we brought in a staff from ice hockey because it was this different way in which we were going to do things. Things haven't changed. Mark then took on a position with the Minnesota Vikings. They have never been worse than middle of the pack since then, and they have been better than that with injuries. So it wasn't him. It was just a fluke, and we cleaned house because that's what you have to try something. It's much like me burning sage. You got to try something at some point. So I don't believe that's the answer. But I'm not against the Niners trying it again at some point. I don't think they will. That would seem like an overreaction. Stivers Niners 209. Rob, Kyle Shanahan fire up Jimmy Garoppolo like Jim Harbaugh did with Kaepernick and Alex Smith. Man, I hope so. Just hit the man on his chest plate. Get him fired up for the game. Show him some love and confidence. Kim coming in. Rob, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Ayuk asked for a trade if the offense doesn't start to explode. I wouldn't either. Feels a little bit early, like maybe you'd be looking at an offseason, but we've seen it a couple of times. Marquise Brown getting traded. You saw the same happening in A.J. Brown getting traded to Philly. It is absolutely, some of these trades happen when it's not a great fit. And if Brandon Ayuk, by the way, I just got to call this out, man. This was the highlight of the game. I'm walking out of the game, end of the freaking game, head down, bummed. Brandon and I are leaving. We're passing by the women's restroom, and I get a hey, and I'm like, wait, that's a little strange. Look over, and a woman was like, hey, do you remember me? I thought I recognized you earlier. And I was like, I got to be honest that it's not coming to me. Please fill me in. Needless to say, it was Brandon Ayuk's mom. So out of nowhere, Brandon Ayuk's mom recognizes me from the time that we had dinner in Green Bay prior to that playoff win. Yeah, let me highlight that sentence again, playoff win that I was at. And she said, what's up? Highlight of the freaking trip. No doubt about it. Being spotted and recognized and said hello to by Brandon Ayuk's mom and having a moment to chat with her after the game. That's why I'm telling you, the wins and losses, they matter. They do. Don't get me wrong. I'd be a lot happier if the Niners had won, and you can't let it ruin your entire life. I can't let it ruin my entire life. I have to take the positive out of every interaction. And Kim, thank you for reminding me of that. That was a cool moment to see Brandon Ayuk's mom again there at the stadium. She was there with her two daughters as well. Samuel coming in. Rob, why do you think D'Amico didn't make any defensive adjustments after halftime of the Atlanta game? It did not feel like schematically we were getting beat. It felt like physically we were getting beat. They were simply running over us. And I do question whether it had something to do with exhaustion at that point. Ooh, I like this suggestion. Dirk Pippen saying, Rob, hire Deion Sanders. I have to say, Deion Sanders, he really, really rubbed me the wrong way on the fact that he left us for the Cowboys. That was rough. I literally took my favorite 49ers shirt at the time, which was Jerry's Highway 101 touchdown number 101 t-shirt that they gave out at Candlestick. And on the bottom, I wrote out F Deion, but it wasn't just an F. It was the full F-U-C, you know what. And I wore that to every game in 95 because it was like, to hell with you, Deion. You have abandoned us. I've moved past it now. I have moved past it, and I feel better about Deion. I would welcome him back. The 49ers experience. Rob, Vish interviewed Tart. What a guy. His insight on the 49ers injury was awesome. I got to catch that. I'm a fan of Vish in the way in which he handles himself. And I will say, I would like to see Tart's opinion on that. AJB, Rob, where's Danny Gray? On the sideline. And I don't know why. Dirk Pip, now we're getting into the story about BA's mom here. Vibes. Yes, I'm here for it. Daniel Garcia, no way. That's awesome. It was freaking awesome. By the way, Stivers Niners 209 just wants to know, do I like A1 sauce? Yes or no? That's a will I put A1 on something? Yeah. It's not a good steak though. If it's a good steak, a little salt and pepper, that's it. I want to taste the steak, not the steak sauce. We're talking about barbecue sauce. We're talking barbecue sauce, man. Now we got sauce. Darren's on it. He says, gotta have a good steak though. Got to have that good steak. All right, looking for those at Rob comments. Here we go. Nick Moneymeyer. Rob, you believe Sean Payton has a real chance at the job? He is a Bay Area native. If you were moving on, yeah, I think you would consider D'Amico Ryans. You would consider Sean Payton. Absolutely, he would be one of those that should be at the front of the list. If. That's a big if. ATG says, hey, throw that ribeye on the grill. I don't need any A1. All right, Jerome M. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, I'm the same way with players that leave us who hated Terrell Owens for a long time. As a younger gentleman, I felt more betrayed by it. Now I'm much more familiar with the business side of the business, the business side of the game. It has also become much more business-like. I agree with you. When T.O. left, also hurt, not as much as Deion leaving, not as much as Jerry leaving. We've had a lot of practice with players leaving because Bill Walsh was a fan of getting rid of somebody before it was too late. You don't want to have them on the roster 1 year too long. Better to get rid of them 1 year too early. So during the 80s and 90s, we saw that a lot. All right, getting back into the previously submitted questions. I appreciate all of you that are live here in the chat. We got another Brandon Ayuk question, perfectly timed after the Brandon Ayuk story that I just went through there. Yes, it was delightful. Man, absolutely a highlight of the game, of the freaking trip. All right, here's Shark coming in. Do you think Brandon Ayuk will have another productive week? Yes. He's had a respectable season to this point, all things considered. This could be his first 100-yard game, coming off a season-high 83 yards on 8 catches. I think Brandon Ayuk is one of the bright spots on offense. Optimistic says, that's a good play with Jimmy and Optimistic. How do the 49ers beat a good team with so many injuries when they can't beat a bad team with injuries? First, let me say, I'm not sure Atlanta is bad. They're not good. They are not good. I'm not sure that they're bad. I think they have heart. I think they play up to the competition and not down. I'm not putting them at the tail end of the league. It is possible that they're in the mix in the NFC, competing for one of the final playoff spots. I mean, you listen to their fan base talking, and you get the sense that they are watching competitive football out there week in, week out. May not have the most talented roster, but the players are coming out to play. And that's very frustrating because on the opposite side of the ball, for us, we have all the talent. We should have won, and yet felt like we weren't ready to come out and play. You have to lay some of that blame on the players themselves, on the coaching staff. It's not something you can see week in, week out without beginning to wonder, hey, something needs to change here. What will be the difference in this one? All right, Aaron comes in with our next previously submitted question, says, what will it take to contain Patrick Mahomes? And how many points will we need to score to win 24 plus? Let me ask this. Who here feels confident saying this offense is going to go out and score 24 plus? I don't care who the opponent is. Can you say that and actually feel confident? Do you feel confident when you say this offense is going to go score 24 plus? I don't. I honestly do not. And that's frustrating. Very frustrating because the talent is there. The offensive-minded coach is there. Hell, even the quarterback that you need to execute is there and performing at the level needed in order to have consistency out of this offense. And yet, here we are. So how do you contain Mahomes? You got to beat him up. You have got to make him feel this contest. You see Buffalo doing that a lot when they're playing Mahomes. Now, they have the capacity to get into a shootout against Kansas City. I don't know that that's a possibility for the 49ers. So you're beating him up. Bosa and Charlie Omenihu. Yes, I'm putting Charlie above Samson Ebukam because Charlie is second on this team in pressures, and I do believe he will end up second on this team at the end of the season in sacks as well. So Charlie Omenihu and Nick Bosa have to harass him all game long because you cannot hope to completely stop Patrick Mahomes. You just try to contain the man. The way in which you do that, sack him. Sack lunch. Get that man down on the turf, muddy up that uniform, make sure that he feels this contest, make sure that you are not exhausted, that you have the horses to still be hitting him in the fourth quarter when it matters most. Because in previous contests, that's where the 49ers have struggled. But that has to do with their offense not carrying the load. And this is the question, the follow-up. Yes, I believe the Niners will need to score 24 more or more to win in this one. The question becomes, can they? Can the Niners score 24 or more? The answer there to me is a most definite yes, only if they put the shit back in the horse, man. It is just so frustrating to watch this offense. Stops, stutters. You see one or two plays here or there, and then a huge miss, and it feels like it's a different player each time. Denver, blame Jimmy Garoppolo all you want. Atlanta, you can't blame Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo did a lot of the things that this team needed to get this W. He certainly didn't cough up the ball that allowed for that return. He threw a couple of nice deep balls. That's what's frustrating here, is you're not talking about one player. You're not talking about one quick fix. You're talking about a bunch of small errors that compile into a much larger issue. You talk about an offensive line that you have new players throughout, and they're lacking the chance to gel as a unit. Trent Williams, if he returns, that's big. I just don't know that that's going to be all it takes for things to click on the offense. But they need cohesion. Otherwise, we are going nowhere. And KC will dominate that game if the offense cannot carry water in this one. All right, I'm coming back into the chat to see those questions you have laid in there for me. All right, Lisa comes in with this one. Rob, if you watch Johnny Dell Free Agent, his video showed how our defensive line got physically beat and the missed assignments in Atlanta. I'm telling you, it was painful, physically beaten on that one. And I don't know whether it was the number of snaps for the defense continuing to add up week after week, whether it was the short week, the travel, staying on the East Coast. I know the Niners went out to a casino while they were there. Did they stay out too late and party? I have no idea what caused the physical dominance by Atlanta, but it was just that. And that's depressing because when you have the talent, you should be able to win the physical matchups. Luke Walsh, Rob Shue, I put kosher salt on tri-tip, let it sit at room temperature 2 hours before cooking. That sounds delicious. Leaving Rob Shue, league was passing Peyton by. What's the upside? Are we talking about Sean Payton? That's fair. You can say, hey, he had Drew Brees his entire career for the most part. And what was he able to get done? I see another very talented offensive mind. However, that would not be my first choice. Honestly, D'Amico Ryans would if you're going anywhere else. DJ Molly, Rob, first season without McDaniels. Now let's see who Kyle is as a head coach. It doesn't matter what San Francisco does during the season, only practice. That's true if they make the postseason. I still think they do. Absolutely believe they do. I see the 49ers still having a very good chance of coming out exactly as I predicted at 11-6. Every chance for them to win one out of the next 2 games and be sitting at 4-4 at the bye, as I said they would be. Now, I would have gotten the games wrong. However, when you look at the strength of the competition, I think 4-4 sets us up to make the playoffs. But it's now a question. It's now a question. CJ Gray, I'm with you. Target heavy for BA. Gold-blooded Rob, how has Harbaugh missed so much when his time here, he's done the same thing Kyle has and came in with a talented roster? Am I missing something? No, that's a grass is always greener on the other side thing. That is, oh my God, my ex-girlfriend was so great. And you completely forget about all those things that you hated, all those annoying little things that you didn't like about one another. You block it out because it's been so long. Harbaugh, he was perfect. No, it wasn't perfect. However, when we let Harbaugh go, I was not ready to part ways with Harbaugh. I thought it was the wrong move to let go of Harbaugh and keep Trent Baalke. A lot of fans, I believe, feel that way. And therefore, there's the romanticism of Harbaugh. If I'm comparing the two, I'm not sure what Harbaugh does with this roster. I will say, I think it's less of a question as to whether he could get them to play hard on a regular basis. I don't think he loses that game to Atlanta in the same way. Could be a different type of loss, but I think he gets them up to play. He does that by firing up his team. And I do think that Shanahan could learn more from that. The 49ers experience, Rob, don't forget the high-scoring Saints game. That game was sick AF, 24-21 Niners. Yes, if we are talking about which Saints game we referring to, we talking playoffs? Playoffs? Dirk Pippen, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, great coaching is mandatory against a guy that can score a touchdown in 20 seconds. No dumb mistakes. That would be critical. And that's the thing is you could have this game in the bag against Kansas City all the way up until the last couple of minutes. You give Mahomes one shot at it, one crack, that might be too much. Tony, sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Rob, Drake Jackson is the most productive rookie pass rusher without that many snaps, and they absolutely can get into a shootout, but it will require Debo and Kittle breaking big ones. They can, but I think you have to admit to yourself it is unlikely at this point. The offense is not looking like one that came up and scored like we did against the Saints in 2019. Randall Riley calling it out. Catch the damn ball. Truth told, not sold, says Rob. Just coming to the party. What are we talking about? We are talking about pain. I mean, basically, but optimism. Pain, but optimism. A little bit of crying, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of sadness, a lot of tears. E. Kim, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, you see the defense blaming the offense for the season if the offense keeps struggling? No. And if you do, if you see the defense turn on the offense, it's time to move on from Kyle Shanahan. That would be, I would definitively say, okay, you've lost the locker room. If you have players turning on one another, then you can't possibly, in my esteem, you cannot possibly coach that team. I don't see that being the case. I still believe Kyle Shanahan is well respected in that locker room, well liked within that locker room, and I've not honestly seen anything from any player to make me believe differently. If I did see that, I would change my mind about it. And if I changed my mind about it and believe Kyle Shanahan had lost any of the players in that locker room and we were slipping away, this season was slipping away from us, yeah, I would say, hey, something's got to change. Something's got to change. Lee Ving says, Rob Shue, 3-3. That's the tell. 3-3. An average team with a superstar roster. Nick Money Meyer. Hey, Rob, I believe Shanny's problems because he had a setup for Trey. They need Christian McCaffrey like we talked about last year. They got to get him to open the short stuff underneath. We don't, the Lambs will win. I agree with the first point there that certainly Kyle Shanahan was preparing to go into this season with Trey Lance as the quarterback. And it would be foolish to say that that isn't going to impact something that he's game planning. It's a change. He should have been familiar enough with Jimmy to make that switch pretty quickly, though. Kim Ferrison says, Rob, Jimmy just doesn't have what it takes, play in, play out, to be the engine to the vehicle. I got to disagree with that in that it wasn't on Jimmy to lose this game. Jimmy did what Jimmy needed to do for us to win against Atlanta, and we lost handily. Samuel coming in, Rob, do you know why Kyle does not seem to use Kittle more and make any adjustments after halftime or any urgency? I don't actually buy into the script that's currently out there right now of Shanahan not making halftime adjustments as a holistic statement. Do I wish at times he made more astute halftime adjustments? Yes. Do I feel there are instances where he is lacking urgency? Absolutely. I was frustrated to see the huddles against Atlanta. I understood what he was going for. He was taking one bite at the apple, let the defense rest. Had they scored, it would have been a different setup. Could have possibly been just what was needed. And then we would be saying, Kyle Shanahan, played it just right. I don't think that's the case. I would have gone quicker. Yes, I do think that Kittle needs to be more involved in this offense. It's tough to do when he is so involved in blocking. One bad Niner, Rob Shue. Don't know if this will ever happen, but I saw a picture with Harbaugh as head coach and Kyle as offensive coordinator. That would be phenomenal. Talk about motivation and skills and smarts. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. All right, Russ Peterson coming in. Rob, way too early to panic. If someone in our division was running away with it, then I would be worried. They're not. Guess who's in first in the NFC West? We are. Now we got to keep that up. We go up against KC next. We lose to KC. We could fall out of first. That could be all she wrote. We may be on a downward trajectory. I am not there. I refuse to be there. This team is too talented. Can we beat KC? Yes. I think it's likely we win one out of the next two. Villain 510, Rob, glad to be here. Need this positivity. Niner Empire. You and me both, Villain 510. How is the East Bay treating you? Hopefully well. Hopefully there's some positivity out there as well. Villain 510, right here, Rob. Forget the curse. Forget the streak. Keep showing up for the squad. You're the man. I'm with it. Darren, what about Mason? What the hell, man? All right, you hit me right there. This is basically the next question. I'm going to skip one, but I'm coming back to it because you're talking about Mason, and I've got a previously submitted question about Mason, so we're talking about Jordan Mason. Big Dig says, why is Mason on the roster? And to that, I say, great question. I guess we may never find out. It sure feels like the only way we are going to see Jordan Mason is if there are injuries to players in front of him. Kyle Shanahan has shown sometimes that's the only way for a rookie to get on the field, that he doesn't have the trust for those players yet. He would rather a savvy veteran, as illustrated by Tevin Coleman being signed off of the street, having been waived by the New York Jets and immediately getting playing time. Now, he contributed in that game. did not look to contribute in Atlanta. That's a disappointment. That was a return to previous squad. You would think he'd have had the juice to actually come through in this one. We didn't. The entire team looked flat. I think what it's going to take to get Jordan Mason out there on the field, unfortunately, and there's no way I'm pulling for this as much as I want to see Jordan Mason, is injuries. I hope to hell, if that's the case, if it takes injuries to see Jordan Mason, I got to say, I hope we don't see Jordan Mason. However, it'd be nice to get him a couple of carries. Just see what he could do. Just see if maybe he's the spark that this offense needs to get the offense going. Just an idea. Just an idea, Kyle. All right, here we go. Looking for those at Rob comments coming in. One bad Niner, Rob Shue. This offense is broken and boring. Yeah, it could be boring and work, though. If we get the run game going, that can look boring. The short passes with yak yards, a little bit boring in that they're not deep shot plays. I tell you what, though, I love watching people get trucked on defense. I love watching our yak bros running through defenders. And when the halfbacks are doing that as well, when the run game is working, it can be a little bit monotonous because it just feels like it's plodding along. But I'll take that. I will take boring as long as we can fix the broken part. The 49ers experience, Rob, defensive coordinator, Ryans as new head coach, keep Shanahan as offensive coordinator. Game prediction? Hey, I'm not ready to make a prediction on this one yet because if I'm honest, if I make the prediction right now, I'm not sure I have the Niners winning this one. And I just don't want to put that energy out there. I will not make that official prediction unless I get to a point where I believe that's going to be the case. Not afraid to predict a loss if that's how I feel. Lisa, Rob, this is just a single battle. The faithful need to remember we have the war to go win. Stay positive. Lisa, thank you for that. I need all of you to lift me up in times when I'm down. I hope sometimes when you're down, you turn to this channel and I can lift you up as well. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not perfect. I'm not always positive. You might think that I am if you tune into this channel. If you watch me, you might think, God damn, how does Rob do it? He doesn't all the time. Let me just definitively say that. It's easier to be positive 1 hour, 90 minutes in front of a camera than to be that way the entirety of the week. So for the 49ers, can I work up that positivity? Absolutely. Do I believe that positivity? You're damn right I do. I go into each game believing and hoping that I can will it into existence. I'm here for the positivity, and I do appreciate it. Daniel Garcia, Rob, you think Gray or Mason will get any plays called for them this year? Yes, Danny Gray for sure will get worked into the game at some point. Thank you, CJ Gray, sneakerhead here on the channel, saying free Danny Gray. We got to get that trending. We have got to get that trending. One bad Niner, Rob Shue. I know what's wrong with Jimmy. He studied under Bobby Brady and not Tom. We got to get Tom Brady out there. We got Tom Brady, but that's clever. One bad Niner. I gotta give it to you. That's a good play on words. Peter Lee, Rob, Shanny needs to game plan Jimmy to go outside of the pocket when he passes because Chris Jones will be ready to bat the balls down at the line of scrimmage, just like the Super Bowl. Must be highly aware. Another ferocious interior pass rusher, another challenge for the 49ers, another challenge for their interior O-lineman, another challenge for Jimmy Garoppolo. He handled it fairly good against Atlanta. I just don't know. I've got traumatic memories of watching Jimmy against Kansas City. I hope that's not the case this weekend. The 49ers experience, Rob, I wonder when we know the season is over, if they put Purdy in. If they put Purdy in, yes, the season is definitively over at that point. They are giving up and mailing it in, and the seat might get hot for Kyle Shanahan if that becomes the case at some point. E. Kim Sneakerhead says here, Rob, do you see the NFLPA doing the same thing with Hufanga and his head injury as they did with Tua? I don't know. The league has a spotlight on them. I think they want to avoid that. Anytime they can minimize the head injuries, they attempt to do so. It feels like they just don't want that topic of conversation to come up. I don't blame them. It's the one thing that could take down the powerhouse that is the NFL. Brain injuries. Walker Utter says, Rob, what's up? I love your streams, man. Walker, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. Sometimes I need to pick me up. Samuel coming in. Rob, any score predictions yet? I'll be at the game. Woohoo, let's go. No score prediction yet. I'm giving this one a lot of thought. I will say, in answer to the question earlier, I do believe the 49ers will need to score 24 or more points in this one. So ask yourself, do you believe that the 49ers can put up that many points with what you've seen from the offense? Ellis 10, Sneakerhead, says Rob Shue, it looks like we might get 5 or 6 players back from injury, including Bosa and Trent Williams. The reinforcements are coming. Will it be enough? I don't know. I don't know if it will be enough. They need the attitude. They don't just need the reinforcements. The players that were out there need the attitude. Lee Ving, Rob Shue, Mason on first and second down. If pass protection is an issue, Wilson wears down. TCO is no long-term answer. Are we talking about, Tevin Coleman, Tico? Tico is not the answer. I think you're right about that one. Melvin, Rob, you're right. It's multiple players making mistakes. If it's multiple players, it's on the head coach. It's on the coaching staff, and that in and of itself is on the head coach. So ipso facto, it is on the head coach. Richard, Rob, teams get it. Players within 5, 10, 15 yards, and you stop them. Teams get it. Play 49ers within 5 or 10 or 15 yards, and you stop them. Yes, back to the, hey, if you can't run the ball successfully, teams know how to guard Jimmy Garoppolo. I get it, but he made some deep passes, and he can't complete those on his own, right? There were some good deep balls that were dropped. So I agree, Jimmy deserves criticism, and I don't think he was the issue in this one. JT coming in. Rob is sharp and articulate within good taste. Why, thank you. I appreciate the compliments. I will always accept those compliments. Truth told, not sold. Rob, I go into every year 16-0 with a Super Bowl victory until otherwise said so. So I feel you, Rob. Hey, you got to have that positivity. Samuel coming in. Yeah, by the way, JKD. I don't know if, I see what he's trying to put in there. I'm not going to read it, but I see it's not spam. I mean, it is spam, but it's not. Samuel coming in. Jimmy G is throwing more deep passes, and always thanks, Rob, for being you, the best content creator. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. Yes, Jimmy is throwing more deep passes. Initially, it wasn't that many more. With this game, there were a few shots, and they look good. They look good. Just got to keep it up. Chris Knight, Rob, wouldn't it be better to rest Bosa, Trent, Ward for the Rams game where a win actually matters rather than risk playing them too early? Yes and no. You have every chance of winning this game against KC as well, and you need to win one of them. If we lose both of these and go into the bye at 3-5, it's going to be hard to stay positive at that point. So it is critical to win each of these games, and I think you got to take both bites at the apple. You can't say, I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket. DJ Molly, Rob, a loss will help Kyle change or mature as a head coach in the long run, not a negative. It is a negative if he ends up at another organization, though. That's the problem. One bad Niner, Rob Shue. Even Josh Allen had a tough time against Kansas City, and Jimmy's no Josh Allen. Damn. Yes, if we are going to beat KC, it's got to be a full team effort. It will not fall on simply the shoulders of Jimmy Garoppolo. Darren, Rob, you are the pick-me-up to the faithful. Thank you, sir. Cheers. Cheers to you as well, Darren. I'm glad I can do something. Don't get me wrong. I'm sad too, man. I'm going through it. I'm feeling it. And I want to remain with the positivity. I want to believe, and I do believe, this team is capable of continuing to come back, that we are still positioned to be in the playoffs and can still be a very dangerous team in those playoffs. Randall Riley, sneakerhead here on the channel. Have faith, Rob. When the Niners have had their back against the wall, they've showed they can bounce back. They have, and Kyle Shanahan has pulled them through that. So I've got to give him credit for that and assume that he can, in fact, drag this team back into shape, whip this offense back into shape. Jay Cruz, 49er. Rob, another loss to a team with a mobile quarterback. It's been a pattern for years now. Our offense played like poop. We did. It looked like a team that can go to the distance. So much to clean up, and so many different areas to clean up. Not one freaking solid point to address. It's a bunch of them. One bad Niner says, Rob Shue, 1987 Buick Grand National, GNX. Bring out the Grand National. That's a great car. Dirk Pippen, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, this is a trap game for KC. They got the crap beat out of them to lose to Los Bills. Hey, I'll take a trap game for the Chiefs. I hope they falter. I really do. All right, I will be back into the chat to finish out. We got a couple of previously submitted questions, and then we are wrapping this up. Do me that favor and hit the like button before we get the wrap up on this show. Alan E. coming in. Can the Niners get Kittle more involved this week? What do you think Kyle's plan is for the Kansas City game? So can we get Kittle more involved, and what is the plan? I'm just not sure at this point when it comes to Kittle. For the offense to really get rolling, it all needs to click. And in order for it all to click, you need George Kittle to be involved. Felt like they were trying to get Kittle involved in this offense, but if you cannot complete third downs at a reasonable clip, if you cannot stay on the field, if you're unable to, on long drives, force the ball into the end zone and put points on the board, it becomes hard to design specific plays for specific players because you just do not have enough plays for the offense, period. Once you get into complementary football and you're picking up first downs and you have those 10, 12, 14 play drives, now it's easier to work George Kittle into the mix. Now the offense gets into a rhythm. Now you begin to see what they can do, but it all comes together as one. And it's like the timing on an engine. When it's off, the entire engine runs like shit. But you put the timing at the right spot, 8 degrees before top dead center, all of a sudden things begin to run smoothly. And I remain optimistic that that's all the 49ers need to do. I don't know that they'll be able to, but it is possible. Absolutely possible. Thomas Luttrell coming in. Does Shanahan need to relinquish play calling duties and get fresh blood or ideas in there? If you had the Yorks' ear, what suggestion would you make concerning Coach Shanahan's workload? This is tough. And I'm not ready to say he has to relinquish play calling duties at this point. But honestly, I'm not sure it would hurt either. When Shanahan is in a rhythm, he's a phenomenal play caller. I have not seen him in a rhythm all that often lately. Now, could that be because he's had to go back and forth between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, two distinctly different stylistically quarterbacks? Yes, absolutely. And you can't make mistakes in the NFL. You can't make excuses in the NFL. You've got to play with the hand that you were dealt. And right now, Kyle Shanahan has a backup quarterback that's better than half of the starters in the league. So really, that shouldn't be an excuse. That should be a reason for the 49ers to be successful. I'm not ready to move on from Kyle Shanahan yet. I absolutely get the fans that are there. I think they're wrong. I would argue that there's not a clear-cut upgrade for Kyle Shanahan just yet. I think there are some potentials. You might be good with Sean Payton. You might get Vic Fangio in or DeMeco Ryans and switch over to a defensive-minded coach and win more games, but you might not. And you might see Kyle Shanahan go over to his next team and get it all figured out, like when Bill Belichick went from the Browns to the Patriots. You never want to be compared to the Browns in the league in any respect, but certainly not when it comes to letting go of a phenomenal head coach and then watching them go on to great success. Alan asks the critical question, can the Niners beat Kansas City on Sunday? Can we get 35 carries this week? I say yes, we can beat Kansas City if we get to 35 carries. I think we will win. It is complementary football. This is what I'm talking about. It all comes together. It is about staying on the field on offense, making sure that you have long, extended drives that allow the defense to remain fresh, come out, and continue to get off the field with significant numbers of 3 and out, where you have shorter series. You're not out there for a ton of defensive snaps. You are able to get after the quarterback. The platoons of pass rushers are that much fresher. And it, again, complements what the offense does because now you're pinning them deep in their own territory. The opponent's punting. You have phenomenal field position. You're starting with the ball at your own 40 instead of at the 25. Those yards matter, especially when you are running it down the opponent's throat. So it all comes together as one. And again, I use that analogy of having the timing off in an engine, that you begin to hear the rattle. You begin to hear the valves chattering a little bit, and it gets ugly. If you allow it to run like that for long enough, the engine will come apart. And that will be the 49ers if Kyle Shanahan cannot get the timing to the correct mark of top dead center. If the offense does not begin to click, it could be that this defense begins to hold spite against the opposite side of the squad. And as I said earlier in this program, if you get to that level, the wheels are coming off. It's highly problematic. And yes, I think at that point, you have to seriously examine whether Kyle Shanahan is losing the locker room. However, let me be definitive in saying I do not believe the Niners are there yet, and I do not see the signs indicating they will be there soon. Darren says, Rob, do you see Jimmy G as a 327 small block? That's actually not a bad comparison. Like, he's got the horsepower to overcome some of the tasks that you need, right? He's not gonna blow the doors on a Chevelle with a 454 in it on a quarter mile, but he can handle his own stoplight to stoplight. I think that's a fair comparison. Nick Moneymeyer, Rob, we need those 15 scripted plays like the old days, reverse flea flickers, motions. Kyle's creativity is needed at this point. Walker says, Rob, the one weakness KC has is their defense. If we can run the ball and keep Patrick Mahomes on the bench, we definitely got a shot. That's just it. That complementary football is what it's all about. That's how this team freaking wins. Ellis, 10. Rob Shue, why does it feel like us Niner fans are talking about 49er injuries every year? Because we are. Because we are. We're traumatized. Leaving. Rob Shue, E-Man was such a blow. Cornerback should be the trade target. But what if Jason Verrett is still that dude? That's the question. Arturo, I hear you, and I want to know why. He says, hi, Rob. Kyle needs to go. Give me your reasoning. What's the feeling of why he has to go? And who replaces him? Because let's be honest, you don't solve a problem simply by shipping out the old coach. You got to get it right with the next hire. That's the tough part. Josh Cook, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob Shue, I'm usually pretty upbeat, but I'm also a realist. It's going to be very hard for us to compete until we get healthy. That's a fair statement. This defense, as I said, this defense can win games by itself when healthy. They are not healthy right now. DJ Molly, Rob, love your show. Great perspective. Thank you. I love your positivity in the chat. It is all about having that positivity in there. Darren says, hey, on the 383, it's 38 degrees before top dead center. That's the QB that we need. Heartless coming in with the super chat. Thank you for that. Heartless says, would you consider being a guest on Vish's channel? Absolutely. Vish and I talked about him coming on this channel. We almost had it down, and then I think he took a little bit of a break from streaming. It was right about that time, towards the end of last season. I know he has school as well. Yes, Vish and I, anytime that we've chatted, have had pleasant exchanges. There's still an open invitation for him to come on this channel. And yes, I am open to collab with pretty much everybody. Dirk Pippin, sneakerhead, says maybe Rob can give that halftime speech instead of Kyle. Niners are 4-2 at least. I'm telling you, the halftime vibes would be real. Give me the night before like Nick Bosa. Give me Bosa's speech. I'll do it. I tell you, I'll get him fired up. Dirk, yeah, 5-2. 5-2. That's what we're going to be at. After this week, we'd be 5-2. One bad Niner, Rob Shue. Can they just please take away Travis Kelce? He alone is killing teams by himself. I don't know. We allowed Cooper Kupp to get, 12, 14 catches on us? Was it 14 catches on 19 targets? Something like that. And we won that game handily. Maybe they have a similar approach where they say, we're going to let Kelce get as many touches as he wants, but we're keeping it in front of us. We're making the tackle, and he's not going to beat us deep. And everyone else is going to be covered. That could work. CJ Gray, I'm loving these freaking car analogy references. Jimmy going deep is like pushing a 4-cylinder to the floor. Not many horses in that. Darren says, Rob, I love your engine to football analogies. Love it. I'm loving it too. I think they fit. Ellis 10, Rob Shue, the thin lining. The 49ers are currently number 1 in the NFC West going into week 7. That's better than last year at this time. Hey, we will take the positives. Jerome M. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, Kyle's offense still works, but mental errors like penalties negate great plays. Drop passes from a rare deep throw from Jimmy Garoppolo can't happen. Kittle can't stop his route short in the end zone. These freaking Mistakes are what are killing us. It is not specifically Kyle Shanahan. Does Kyle Shanahan need to rectify these mistakes? Yes, absolutely. But you see where his plays, his play design should have success. You see where Jimmy makes the right read. Now, he doesn't always. He's sometimes to blame for this. But this last game, it was frustrating to see players across the board seemingly having lost focus. Alan, Eliza, Rob Shue, great show, my guys. Smash that like button. Absolutely appreciate that. I love the fact that you're here reminding people to hit the like button. Love the fact that we celebrate these shows. I got to get going, but I'm going to close on this last one from JMac49. I don't have a great answer for it, but you know me. I'm going to give it a shot. JMac49, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, glad you made it home safe. What do you think is the key to beating Kansas City? P.S. My daughter took the bronze at her first Taekwondo tournament. Hey, for those that don't remember, it was J-Mac's daughter that we saw the picture of that inspired us to bring in more pictures. And I have pictures I want to share. This was a hectic week, and so I haven't gotten them out yet. I am going to have all of the pictures shown on this channel. If you have a picture of you celebrating with your family, your pets, at a game, whatever it may be, feel free to put them, send them to me. I'm going to put them on the screen next mailbag. Send me the 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. I got like 4 or 5 quality picks that are going to be shown during the next actual Tuesday mailbag. Heartless says, awesome. Looking forward to it, Rob. Yes. Look at this. We need an LS7 motor or better. We got to make sure that we've got a high 500 horsepower crate motor that we're throwing in there. And I got to agree with this. One bad niner. Rob Shue, we desperately need Mitchell back. We need some freaking horses. Everybody's looking for the horses. Is it Mitchell? Is it a new crate motor? I don't know what it is, but we need something. We need something, and we're going to get it. Let's keep that faith. Let's show that, hey, we believe this team can be who we said they were going to be at the beginning of the year. We believe this team can get to 4-4. I believe this team can get to 4-4, and from there, 11-6. Once you're in the dance, all you need is a chip in a chair. And that's what the 49ers are going to have when they get this team to 11-6 or better. They could still be first in the NFC West, and I am here for it. Let's hope that they can get this ship righted, get the offense rolling, and maybe get into a shootout that they can win against Kansas City. I have my birthday coming up on Friday, so I may not be streaming much the rest of the week. I'm going to try to slip in some shows. We'll definitely try to get a pregame going on, but I'm going out to Bend for my birthday. The old man is celebrating 44 years young on Friday, so that will be my focus. I'm having fun. I will be watching Kansas City. We'll absolutely try to do a post-game there, but got to do those things for my own mental health as well, and I want you guys to do the same. Keep your heads up, believe in this team, and don't let anything get you down too much. I try not to let anything get me down too much. I will be back. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to know the next time. Do me that favor. Hit the like button on your way out. Until the next time when I see you, I appreciate the birthday wishes, by the way. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Nick Money Meyer. Thank you, J-Mac. Appreciate everybody. Until the next time, you know the drill. Cheers, faithful.